The Dandenong Ranges forests are very significant and home to a wide range of native animals and birds. The preservation of our forests and environment depends upon all of us. English ivy is a key threat to the health of our forests, animals and birds. Ground ivy forms a dense carpet. It smothers native plants and prevents animals and lyrebirds being able to scratch and forage for their food. Ivy climbs up trees. It competes with the host tree for nutrients and water, and eventually it strangles and kills the tree. Trees covered in ivy are also more at risk of falling because of the weight of the ivy. Ivy also climbs up tree ferns and embeds itself into the trunk. Once ivy climbs a tree or other vertical surface, it fruits and produces hundreds of clusters of dark purple berries. These berries are spread many kilometres by birds and other wildlife and can be carried by our waterways. In the forest, berries make more seedlings, smothering and killing native vegetation. There are some simple and effective methods to treat and remove English ivy. Firstly, deal with the ivy up trees, as this will stop the spread of the berries. To remove ivy, you will need a few tools. A cutting tool, such as loppers, secateurs or a saw. A tool to leverage the stem away from the trunk. Gloves, and make sure that those are protective waterproof gloves if you are using a herbicide, and that you're always following the safety and other instructions for that herbicide. A dabber bottle or something similar like a sauce bottle can also be used for undiluted glyphosate. For trees with smooth or hard trunks, use the cut and paint method. This severs the ivy up the tree from its roots. Once cut, the ivy up the tree will die. For tree ferns and trees with thick fibrous bark, such as stringy bark, use the scrape and paint method. This is because the ivy will survive and continue to grow on the nutrients in the trunk even after severed from the ivy roots. Don't try and pull the ivy off the tree, as this will actually damage the tree. Cut the stems and everything above will die on the trunk. Cut small stems and hanging stems around the tree about 1 metre above ground level. Immediately paint or dab the cut stem with your undiluted herbicide. It is really important that the herbicide is applied immediately for the herbicide to enter the stem effectively, and usually within 30 seconds is a good rule of thumb. If you have lots of stems, you may need to do them in sections to apply the herbicide quickly enough. Prise the ivy stems away from the tree trunk using your levering tool if required, and then cut and immediately paint the upper stem. Grasp the lower section of the cut stem and pull out and away to expose the roots. Cut the stems as close as possible to the base of the plant. Paint herbicide to the cut stem as quickly as possible. If you have very thick stems and roots, you can also drill shallow holes and fill them with herbicide. Clear any ground ivy from around the trunk to prevent new ivy growing up the tree. For tree ferns and trees with thick or fibrous barks, use the scrape and paint method. Do not cut the stems on tree ferns. Scrape loose hanging ivy and immediately paint with undiluted herbicide. Gently prise the stems away from the trunk if possible. Scrape 4 to 6 inches of the stems around the base. Immediately apply herbicide to the scraped area of stem using the dabber bottle. Ensure good coverage of the scrape. Ground ivy needs to be hand pulled. Start at one edge of the ivy patch or start where you have good indigenous plants and work back from there. Be careful to get stems buried under the soil and don't leave broken bits behind as they will reshoot. Pick up and bundle up all stems and pieces of ivy and then remove or place them in an elevated tree fork to dry out and die. Now you know how to effectively treat and remove ivy, you can grab a few tools, and with just a little bit of your time, you can help protect your forests and bushland from this invasive plant and preserve local biodiversity and habitat for native birds and animals. Thank you for caring and taking the time to help your local environment. If you would like more information or to get involved in a local group, you can always contact the Community Weed Alliance of the Dandenongs or the local Yarra Ranges Council.